Hello and welcome to Ryno's Ravens Review. Be sure to like and subscribe. Now, Ravens are going to have a bye week coming up, so it'll be approximately 12 days before you will hear from me again. So, in that subscription I'm asking for you to do, you will get alerted in about the 12 days when I do my next preview show. Talking about last night's game now. Baltimore Ravens 20, Los Angeles Chargers. Gotta remember they are the Los Angeles Chargers, not the San Diego Chargers anymore. 10 points. Start up with my little key notes. Not exactly the greatest start from the defense. They did kind of allow a long drive by the Chargers, but defense finished fantastically. Officiating was kind of bad. There was a few talking about that first drive. There was an alleged, not that it was called, but a late hit out of bounds that many fans, coaching staff by the Chargers, and even the commentators believe should have been a penalty for a late hit out of bounds. Now, if it's Justin Herbert doing that, he's trying to fight for extra yards while actually going out of bounds. You're apparently not allowed to hit him when his foot hits the white. But if it is Lamar Jackson, remember last game, was it the Browns game? Lamar Jackson did the same thing, was hit, and no flag was thrown. So, I don't know if I really understand that. If it's okay to hit Lamar Jackson like that, why isn't it okay to hit Herbert? But not even that. It was so many. There were a few spots where I think each team was screwed over on getting a first down because bad officiating. And to most of the extent, it's not necessarily the officials, the people out there. It's not necessarily their fault. It's really the NFL's fault, especially when you're looking at where to spot the ball on a first down, and especially if you got a player going to the sideline. Why do you not have an official on each sideline looking down the first down yard marker? Seems like where a lot of the plays can happen. Okay, they put a camera in the little, we'll call it a pylon that's there for the first down marker on the sideline. That doesn't really do anything. If you had an official there, maybe he'd be able to look at it, or she, be able to look at it and say, oh, that was a first down. I don't know what you, standing in the middle of the field 50 yards away, have the ability to look at, which the commentators also mentioned. Look, the first down is in set position over here, and the officials are way over there. They're kind of far away from it. So why doesn't the NFL put somebody closer? The NFL has the money to hire and train more officiators. Why don't they? Because they choose not to. They choose to have incorrect calls made when they can do something about it. This is terrible. All right, going back to the actual football played. Still on my keynotes here. Ravens defense ended up with 4 turnovers in that game last night. The Ravens offense were only able to score a total of, off of those 4 turnovers, 3 points. It's terrible. You're terrible. Yes, okay, one of those turnovers was on an interception on the Hail Mary to end the half. Okay. But then the 3 other turnovers, all you could get was 3 points. You average 1 point per turnover by your defense. That's trash. That is trash. The only worst you could have done was to score no points, and you only got 1 field goal. You really couldn't have done worse. Or maybe, I guess, worse would be give the ball right back to them. Surprisingly, they didn't do that, though Lamar did have a fumble. Of course, to a certain extent, that it was because of Khalil Mack. And, maybe getting a little ahead of myself, but hello, Todd Monken. Do you not know who Khalil Mack is? He's a very, very good pass rusher. What was your plan for blocking Khalil Mack? Apparently, it was no plan. It didn't look like you had a plan to block the guy at all. Partly why the Ravens offense didn't look that good most of the night. Moses or Stanley, because Khalil Mack, I guess, is technically listed as a linebacker, so he does move around a lot more from one side to the other side. But there was no plan. Like, say, put maybe Pat Ricard in there as a second tight end more often and have him maybe go in motion to whatever side Khalil Mack is on. That is a plan. Whether it's a good plan or not, I don't know. But Khalil Mack made his presence known a little more than should have been. Considering the Los Angeles Chargers, other than Khalil Mack, really didn't have a prayer in this game. It really didn't seem like it anyway. Because if the Ravens offense would have done a little bit better, I don't know that the Chargers would score 10 points. Let's get in some of the numbers and back up why I think the offense didn't do that well. Look at these passing numbers for Lamar. I swear, as soon as we started all talking about how good of a completionist, I guess would be the best term, that Lamar was being this year, high percentage completions. As soon as everybody got on board with saying that, in the tank he went. 18 for 32 in this game. Wow. I don't know the percentage there, but if it was 16 for 32, he'd be at 50%. So 18 for 32 isn't much better. Did have one touchdown, which was a very nice play. But 18 for 32 with 177 yards is not good. And you look at the rushing yards. Yeah, I mean, technically they did have a lot of rushing yards. I mean, some of it was on that last touchdown play by Flowers for 37 yards, but not a whole lot of rushing yards to come by, but they did move the ball. Of course, if it wasn't for Zay Flowers, they may not have gotten any touchdowns because he got 2 of their touchdowns. But it's odd here to look at the rushing numbers and see a lot of players. You got Mitchell, Jackson, Flowers, Hill, Edwards, Duvernay. Wow, they pulled everybody out of there, right? I mean, yes, you were going to have Jackson, and yes, you were going to have Edwards. You got Hill in there, and you got Mitchell in there, and then you got your 2 end-around kind of guys, jet sweepers, Zay Flowers and Duvernay. Were very active in the run game. Just didn't seem to amount to too much. But, I mean, look at the passing. And even though Lamar only completed like 50% of his passes, still spreading the ball around, which is good. Makes it harder to double for a defense to double up a certain player because you've shown that you will use all your weapons. Likely 4 catches for 40 yards. Look pretty good for his... And what do I have here on my notes? Try to remember the phrase I wanted to use. He looked good in first game of this long stretch without Andrews, the number 1 tight end. Which we really wanted to see happen because it is a game of momentum. If likely had the first game without Mark Andrews around be kind of a dud, then what does that do for the next game? Does his confidence take a little bit of a hit? Now that he had fairly good game, 4 catches for 40 yards, pretty good for a relatively young guy taking over as the number 1 tight end because of an injury. You would think his confidence gets a little bit of boost and he can stack some more good performances. Beckham, they kind of made a big deal about this. I guess it is kind of a big deal. Beckham, when he hurt his ACL in the Super Bowl he played in. He was in SoFi Stadium, so this was the first time back in that stadium. Somewhat of an emotional time for him is what I have been told, or, what they were talking about on the broadcast. Which, does kind of make sense. 3 catches for 30 yards, not a huge game, but you look at everybody else that had catches. Zay Flowers had 5 catches, 25 yards. Keaton Mitchell had 2 catches for 25 yards. Also good to see Keaton Mitchell getting some play in the pass game and not just the run game as well. A little bit of screen kind of options, or, coming out in maybe a Texas route, I think it was. Lamar scrambling about. Bateman, 2 catches, 20 yards. Aguilar, 1 catch, 20 yards. Aguilar was the one that, what I was talking about earlier with the officiating and the first down, he caught the ball. Very nice catch out in front of him. And looking at the play, I guess everybody, even the Ravens, were thinking, oh, that's obviously a first down. But somehow, amazingly enough, it wasn't called a first down. And apparently, the Ravens were like, let's go up-tempo and throw this dumbass bubble screen. And then Asante Samuel Jr. busted that up. Kind of screwed the pooch on that one, and he had to go for it on 4th down, which Gus Edwards, thankfully, he has a second effort and was able to get it with that. Oh, and speaking of Gus Edwards, 1 catch for 11 yards. So you got 2 running backs involved in there in your pass game, which is, again, that's good to see. You got a tight end involved with several catches. You got 2 different running backs involved in your pass game, and you got 4 wide receivers involved as well. So that's a lot of diversity there. All right, let's come to the NFL. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even say the website. All the information I've gotten this so far, I've been putting out on the website, the screen behind me, courtesy of BaltimoreRavens.com. These numbers was a little Game Center box score stat page on BaltimoreRavens.com. Now going to NFL.com. Do like some of the numbers here as I transition from offense. I will be transitioning to defense in a little bit. Some of the averages for passes. These are rushes, I'm sorry. Keaton Mitchell with 9 carries, averaging 7 yards. Yeah, it's kind of funny. We thought, it would have been Dobbins 1, Gus Edwards 2 starting the year. Then Dobbins goes down. Out of nowhere, here comes this undrafted guy, Keaton Mitchell. Well, his daddy was a Raven and won a Super Bowl back in 2000, so it kind of makes sense, don't it? Lamar Jackson only averages 3. Some of those, I think, are on sacks. Look at, Flowers, this is the last play, or the touchdown run he had at the end of the game, which I know relative to the timing of it, they may have mentioned on the broadcast, it was Mike Tirico and Jason Garrett calling the game, that maybe a veteran player would have just gone down before going into the end zone. I don't know about that. Excuse me 1 second. With the way the Ravens offense in particular has been finishing games. Look, when that play started, before they snapped the ball, there was about, a minute 44 left on the clock. Chargers had 1 timeout. There's a difference between going down when you could have ran the clock all the way down, or that if you don't score and you give the ball back, you're going to give the Chargers time left, and they have a timeout. Maybe it's not a lot of time, but they do have a timeout. Could they have gone down there, gotten field goal range, and kicked a field goal to tie it? Certainly possible. You get a touchdown there, like what Flowers did. Now it's a two-score game. I think that was the right decision. going down before you get in the end zone, no. Not when you were going to get a touchdown. It was going to be a 2-score game. Because now, the Chargers, you have to get 2 scores in a minute, whatever it was, 30, a minute 30, a minute 20. I don't remember how long the play took. With 2 timeouts. I mean, with 1 timeout. They only have 1 timeout. That's a lot harder to do, I think. Because it is 2 scores. Yes, you were going to get the ball back, but then you had to get an onside kick too. It's kind of hard now. So, no. Go in and get the touchdown. Justice Hill and Gus Edwards are noticing how they actually got less carries than Keaton Mitchell. It's going that way. The way Keaton Mitchell is looking running the ball. He looks pretty good. You see all these misses here. Likely got 6 targets, 4 catches. Beckham, 5 targets, 3 catches. Zay Flowers, 8 targets, only 5 catches. Bateman was targeted 5 times, only caught the ball twice. Not the greatest passing performance. Probably one of the worst in a while, because I feel like we did see Lamar have good passing games. This one was not in that category. Moving on down the list here that NFL.com has. Going into fumbles, yes. Lamar fumbled again. That goes to what I was talking about. Todd Monken's plan with Khalil Mack. Oh, I wanted to mention that about Flowers. Checking out my notes here, making sure I was finished with the offense before I went into defense. Probably should have done that before I went into defense, but however. I wanted to mention this when I was talking about Flowers. His celebrations. I think the last one with the penalty kick, I thought it was okay. I don't know about that first one with, throwing the bouquet like you in a wedding. Flowers theme, I guess. It was they even showed Lamar's reaction on the broadcast too. Lamar's like thought it was kind of not as good as some of the other ones we may have seen. So while it looks like Zay Flowers is going to be in the end zone quite a bit, he may have to work on his touchdown celebration, though it looks like he will do that. All right, picking up where I left off with the fumbles. Again, Khalil Mack was in there when Jackson fumbled the ball. Luckily, offensive line was able to jump on top of it. Now, coming back to these other names in this fumble category here. See, Clowney, Queen, Roquan Smith, forced fumbles. Ravens forced some fumbles yesterday. One on Eckler, I think it was on a run. He may have been gotten one of those long handoff type passes. One on Keenan Allen, heavily featured in the San Diego offense. I think he caught like 20 passes last night. San Diego Chargers don't have a whole lot going for them. At least it didn't seem like that when they were playing the Ravens. It's just so weird that you finally see not only forced fumbles, and I don't know why you have you have this recovery column, but you don't put anybody in there. I don't know. Ravens were able to fall on those 3 fumbles. 3 points on offense from them. Disappointing. Very disappointing. Very, very disappointing. And in the pass defense column, you do see here, Arthur Millette was the one that intercepted that Hail Mary to end the half. And you see several pass breakups here. Millette got a pass breakup himself. Kyle Hamilton, Patrick Queen, Roquan, Brandon Stevens, Kyle Van Noy, Marcus Williams, all with pass breakups. Getting my defensive notes, that's right. Kyle Hamilton. He didn't come up with any kind of we'll say, sexy stat like an interception or a fumble or a sack. He played a hell of a game last night. He is becoming a force out there. Several key tackles for loss. Well, maybe it was just two, not several. But few other key tackles in the open field. Or at least hold on to the guy in the open field and let his buddies come help bring down. He's got the length. He's got the speed to hang with. A lot of tight ends that say maybe a linebacker couldn't, because he's really built like a linebacker. He's maybe not as thick or as muscular as, let's say, some of the linebackers, but because he is so tall and has a lot of length to him, that kind of makes up for that. So he has the mass of a linebacker. He's really looking really good out there. Boat wasn't kind of looking too well last year for Kyle Hamilton, whether he was going to be a bust or a hit in the draft when he was taken in the first round. But seeing the way he's playing this year, it was an absolute hit. I think fantastic decision too. Now, with all those takeaways, you're thinking, oh man, how many sacks did the Ravens get? Well, they only got 3. And I mentioned in my notes over here, the several forced fumbles and fumble recoveries did kind of make up for the fact that they only got 3 sacks. I think some of that is the rules of the throwaway for quarterbacks is kind of ridiculous. You see so many times where it's just the ball's just chucked out of bounds. And it's like, what's that not grounding, man? It's slightly annoying, I guess. I understand you want to give the quarterback an option to just, throw the ball away and we'll go to the next play. But you're kind of penalizing some of these defensive players who are judged in contract time and awards with some of these numbers like a sack or an interception or something. And you're taking them away. Even Arthur Millette actually had a sack. I'm trying to figure out when was it? It was the turnover on downs late in was it this one here? Yes, it was this one here. Here in the fourth quarter, right before the Ravens touchdown, the rushing touchdown by Flowers. Arthur Millette off the left side. It was an overload blitz. He wasn't blocked at all. And in the process of wrapping up Justin Herbert just gets rid of the ball. Well, there's nobody in the area. So because you're allowing these throwaways to happen, you essentially robbed Arthur Millette of a sack. To a certain extent, yes, okay, throw the flag and have it be grounding. Shouldn't we also award a defender like that with a sack? I mean, if you're going to throw a penalty and call it grounding because there was no receiver in the area and the quarterback was under pressure, wouldn't you like to believe that if quarterbacks were told they aren't allowed to throw the ball, that they wouldn't throw the ball? And in that case, Justin Herbert would have been tackled by Arthur Millette and he would have gotten a sack. Kind of robbing the man of a sack there. Just doesn't seem right to me. But I guess it's not the hugest deal in the world. I mean, because all these rules are going to go in favor of the offense. Whatever. All right, I think this video is going on long enough. Let's summarize up here and mosey on out of town. Not the greatest game played by the Ravens offense in their 20-10 victory over the Los Angeles Chargers in Los Angeles. But, a win is a win. And defense played outstanding. Yeah, they got a bunch of takeaways and the offense wasn't able to capitalize on those takeaways, which is kind of disappointing. But on the other hand, Ravens were able to move the ball. They were able to move the ball without Mark Andrews, which is a huge thing. I mentioned that with Isaiah Likely not having a dud the first game without Mark Andrews for this long stretch here. Kind of the same with the Ravens in general. First game without Mark Andrews, who's a big playmaker on offense. You didn't want to come out with a loss or a really bad performance by the offense. Now, it wasn't great performance by the offense, but it wasn't god-awful. So, it at least doesn't hurt the team's confidence. It does kind of build up the confidence a little bit. Hey, we can get through this period without Mark Andrews. Now, let's go into some of the scheduling here. You see this game, week 12, end of November. Was here with the Chargers, week 13. The Ravens have the bye week. The next game is scheduled for December 10th. So approximately 13 games, 13 days from now. I will do a preview show. As of right now, I'll do a preview show on the 9th. So you won't see me for another 12 days. So be sure to like and subscribe. And you'll be notified when that video does come in the next 12 days from now. Take a little bit of a break. Kind of makes sense since the Ravens are on a bye week. Shouldn't I be on a bye week too? Maybe. I don't know. Be sure to like and subscribe. I'm the Angry Ryno. Fly, Ravens, fly.